Life doesn't always go as planned. Along the way, we may face some challenges that will test our strength. While some we will soar through, others might break us down. Middle school and high school are easily the nicest days of some people's lives. But those days are long gone. Now people have huge responsibilities to look after. There is no time to even sit and think about those days except when it is time for a reunion. One never knows what to expect at those events. However, there is enough time to be ready for all kinds of situations. In today's story, a very unexpected reunion happened between two middle school friends and in the most unlikely place ever. Greetings and welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we bring you the story of a wonderful encounter between a criminal and his long-lost friend. It's an unlikely situation. In order not to miss any of our uploads, please subscribe to the channel, press the alarm bell and turn on YouTube notifications on your phone. Thank you. It was a normal day for the judge at the Miami-Dade Bond Court. The convicts were arranged in order and each person took their seat. While some had been through this practice a couple of times, others were completely new at it and somewhat nervous. It didn't matter whether or not it was your first time in court, the law still dealt with you according to your sins. It is normal for the people who have been through this a lot to be nonchalant and even standoffish. Some were disrespectful, unwilling to obey orders, and some were already fast asleep. Usually, most or even all the people who are sent to court for little crimes depend on the services of a public defendant. They either do not have money for a personal lawyer, or, in their eyes, their crimes are not serious enough to warrant one. The court allows each criminal to exercise their right to hire a personal lawyer. However, lawyers certainly do not come cheap. People who go ahead and hire a lawyer, even though they cannot afford it, are usually ones who have been framed for a crime and are expectant of compensation at the end of the trial. For each offender, the judge has to know if he or she has served under the US military or any of the reserves before. A military or former military offender is not tried in a civilian court. They have their own court where they are tried. The courts were certainly not the place to get reacquainted with someone. At the very least, it would be embarrassing for someone, apart from your family, to see you out and about in an unflattering orange jumpsuit, or even with your hands and feet shackled together. But indeed, our ways are not God's ways. He surprises us greatly, and most often it is to show us the value of life. The judge started her work at her usual time. She started calling the offenders to the witness stand, one after the other. Her work is not something anyone would classify as fun to do, not even her. The daily interaction with criminals makes her want to take a vacation where no one knows her. The judges are the ones who lift most of the heavy-duty stuff, going through both petty and serious crimes. The judge, despite her daily struggle, smiled and greeted each offender as she called them up to the witness stand. One after the other, the offenders she called came to stand and presented their case to her. While she was still working on the documents of the previous offender, another one called Mr. Booth stepped into the witness stand. The judge did not look up because she was busy with the forms. Eventually, when she did, she greeted him and asked him how he was doing. She then went ahead to read his offences from the arrest sheets. As she was doing so, it was obvious he was ashamed. The judge made a mistake and Mr. Booth was quick to correct her, for which she apologised. The judge kept glancing at him over and over again. Even though she tried to focus on her work, her eyes kept moving to the offender standing in front of her. But work still had to continue, and so the judge interpreted the terms and conditions of his bonds to him. He had to pay for all the destruction he had caused. His first bond alone amounted to $7,500, quite a hefty sum. There was no disagreement from Mr. Booth. He accepted all the charges and punishment for the charges. He did not show any form of disrespect to the judge, and she in turn was smiling at him. The judge still kept looking at him because she had a feeling she knew Mr. Booth, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. After the formalities were done, it was time for him to go. But she had one last question for him. She has finally figured out where she knew him from. Immediately, when she asked the question, Mr. Booth was in shock. He became speechless, and his memories rushed him back to his middle school days, so much so that he started weeping. The judge's name is Mindy Glazer, and she had once sat in the same classes with Mr. Booth. They might have even been friends. Mr. Booth was so shocked and embarrassed that he kept on saying, "Oh my goodness." Mindy was sorry to see how he had ended up. She never could have imagined this. She was also nearly in tears. However, amidst the tears, they kept smiling at each other. Mindy and Booth's story goes way back. Booth loved playing football and was always seen engaging in it. Mindy also liked football and played alongside her friends and Booth. The judge shared her favourite memory of Booth. She said he was the nicest kid in middle school. She kept repeating this to the jury. You could see she was sorry to see him in trouble. She hoped that he would live a lawful life after this. Everyone in the courtroom was stunned. Some of them were even crying. Others were shedding a couple of tears. Mindy was uncomfortable seeing Booth in this situation, and Booth was just too ashamed to say anything else. She was truly sad to see one of the nicest kids in middle school on the wrong side of the law. Life can be truly unfair sometimes. These were two people who graduated from the same school. However, the paths they took and how they turned out were completely different. Booth's criminal activities started with domestic abuse. He was accused of domestic abuse several times. When this started to take a toll on him, he sought relief with drugs. Booth's frequent use of these drugs caused him to become addicted to them. Booth started a family quite early, and he had to continuously provide for his family. His friends advised him to engage in petty theft as a means of survival. This wasn't Booth's first entanglement with the law. He had already been to prison a couple of times for petty crimes. Whenever he was released, Booth again found himself in trouble. He did not think much of himself at this point. He felt he couldn't be saved no matter how hard he tried or how much he wanted it. Before this event with Mindy, Booth had almost given up on life. When Mindy was reassuring him and advising him, Booth couldn't talk. He was still very much in shock. All he could do was smile at her and wipe his tears. The large amount of money he had to pay to make bail had long since left his mind. His mind was riddled with disbelief and disgrace. Booth's life would have to take another turn after this. If it doesn't, there might not be another event to make him want to better himself. Middle school for Booth and Mindy was more than 30 years ago, and this was life's way of bringing a change to both their lives. After spending 10 months in prison, Booth was met with hugs and smiles from his family. They were really truly happy to see him out of that place, and they had missed him so much. He was also all smiles, and even smiling shyly at the camera trained on him. What Booth didn't know was that they had prepared a special surprise for him. Judge Mindy was also there. She was waiting for her longtime friend on the day of his release. Booth went over to where she was standing and hugged her. Even though he was smiling at first, Booth couldn't help but shed a few tears. He was amazed that after all these months, she had not forgotten about him. Life was throwing another chance Booth's way, and he would be insane not to take it. Even after all these years and everything he had done, Mindy still respected him as a person and a friend and only wanted to see him succeed in life. Booth was truly in awe of Mindy and what she had done for him. He said he was inspired by her to do better. He knew his life could have turned out much better if he had taken a different journey. In life, whatever opportunities we get, we must make full use of them and be grateful for them, even if we feel sorry for ourselves or our current situation. We should not take it out on life, as life should be seen as a blessing from God. This is the end of today's story. What do you think about this whole encounter? Let us know in the comments section below. We hope you are living a life worth living. Please like and share this video with your friends and family. Thank you all for your time, and see you all next time.